Thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Tamp Auto Operations Webcast. During today's webcast, attendees will be in listen-only mode. There will be a Q&A session at the end of today's call. If you have a question during the presentation, you may submit it online by entering it into the QA panel. If you're in full screen view, click the question icon located in the floating toolbar at the lower side of your screen. Simply type a question into the dialog box and click the Send button. If you're in the split screen mode, the Q&A panel is already open and is located on the lower right side of your screen. As a reminder, this presentation is being recorded. If you are experiencing technical issues, please contact WebEx Technical Support. Our speaker today is Guido Day, Manager Technical Support. Guido, please go ahead.
Hi everybody, my name is Guido, and thanks for watching this video around the Bun one-step espresso machine. So I guess as you're looking then watching this video here, I think you probably have either a unit already installed and want to learn a little bit more about it, or you have interest in this, in the ease of the operations, and so I hope you're looking forward to what you're seeing here. The session is a recorded session, so you don't have to take any screenshots while you're watching this one. And after the session is completed here, you will get a link with basically a copy from the recording, so you can always look at it again. You always have the possibility to ask a question, and we will review these questions at the end of the session, so that we have basically at the end always a question and answer session around that one there. So let's talk a little bit about the Bun Tamp one-step machine. So one step is normally in the industry for that you press one button and the machine is doing everything for you. So with this we have a fridge here which holds the milk, and we have the espresso machine here, and while you then press one button you get your finished product, milk and coffee, into the cup. To make that machine operational, let's talk a little bit about the site requirements here just real quick. You know, the machine runs on 208 volt. It's running on a 30 amp breaker for people who have interest in that one. The fridge itself is running on its own power supply. So this is a 110 volt 16 amp fridge. So you always need to have a second outlet there. That also means that if your milk is not staying cool, but your machine might be operating, that for whatever reason the power supply for the fridge went out and doesn't work anymore. The machine runs on 30 to 90 psi water pressure. This is kind of a little bit important. We always want to make sure that, you know, when you hook up these machines, that you do not have perhaps a big Titan brewer standing next to it, or a drip coffee machine, because as soon as a drip coffee machine draws water and it's hanging on the same line, it might draw water away from the espresso machine, and that's not really what we want to do there. We want to make sure that the drain is within a reachable reach of around 6 feet, and to ensure that the flow there, whatever goes into the drip tray as well from the internal drain, is working out in a good way. The machine always comes with a Mavea filter in front of it. This Mavea filter is a filter which is specifically designed to treat scale in steam boilers. This filter has a life, and the life depends on the local water hardness. And so we always have to keep an eye on that one, that this water filter is changed frequently to ensure that we do not build up any scale in the boiler. The machine has in the back a quick connect as the water main supply to the unit. So whenever you might be getting a water to low error message, you know, that could be coming from that one, but it's always very good to know that this one is there. So let's talk about the equipment itself. The equipment, we have 2 hoppers here. We normally put into the smaller hopper our decaf beans, while the larger hopper is our regular bean hopper. The smaller one holds approximately 1 pound. The large one holds approximately 1.5 pounds. The 1.5 pounds get you to around 45 drinks. This one gets you around to 30 drinks. These bean hoppers, they are non-interchangeable, so you always have to put the small one here, and you always have to put the large one on the right-hand side. If you are looking for a site where you have a little bit higher volume and you want to get more beans there inside, we have as well extensions available which are adding approximately another pound to the hoppers. Please also remember the beans should always be fresh, so if you do not go through a complete bean hopper within a day, I would never put a larger bean hopper in it to say, hey, I have suddenly a week supply of beans on top of my machine, because the beans will not stay fresh and the products will not be as good as you would like to have them. The bean hoppers must be in place so that the machine is operating. They are monitored by a micro switch. If the bean hopper is not there inside, we cannot run a brew mechanism, we cannot make any drinks out of that equipment. To release the bean hopper, there is a slider inside. This slider has basically two functions. The slider on the one hand locks the bean hopper in place, and on the other hand, when I take the bean hopper out, it's closing the opening from the bean hopper. So we want to look into this one real quick. For that one, you normally have two doors. You have here an operator door, and then you have here a service door. The service door is locked. I unlocked it here. This is for the service technicians, but I want to give you a little bit more visibility inside of the unit. So the slider is basically, and I show it on the right hand side on the large one, when you push it all the way there inside, then you can take the bean hopper out, and this is here the slider. If I would pull this one now, all the beans would be falling here on the floor. This is when it opens and it makes sure that the beans are basically falling into the grinder. One thing is very, very important. Whenever you put the bean hopper back in place, at that point you always have to immediately open the slider. That's sometimes what people forget, and then they're getting error messages that, the bean hopper is empty and everybody thinks, I have beans inside, but the beans actually cannot fall into the grinder itself. You also immediately see right at this point, I took the bean hopper off, and all my products here on the screen, except milk and the foam, they are grayed out. A grayed out one always means that the product is for whatever reason not available, and the machine always tells it up down here, because it says right at this point the right bean hopper is missing. So that's that monitoring from the bean hopper there. As soon as I put my bean hopper back in place, you see a color change on my display for the drinks as well, that you can see now my machine says ready to brew. I now have to open my door, and this is normally how you do it. You open the door here, you basically grab into the machine, you pull the slider. The bean hopper is now locked, it cannot be taken out anymore. We close the door again, and that's what you do. The bean hopper, the cleaning out of that one is you do not want to put it in the dishwasher, you do not want to rinse it in a sink or something like this, because the bean hopper would have small areas there inside where you could keep water into it and you cannot drain it, clean it and dry it. And that moisture would actually go into the beans, would change the behavior from the beans. And with this, the dispense and the product would taste differently than what you would expecting. So what we recommend at that point is just take a paper towel, go from the inside through the bean hopper there and wipe that oil from the coffee out of that one. The guard, what you see there inside, that guard cannot be removed. This guard is there as a finger protection so that nobody accidentally can get into a grinder while the grinder is running. So the next portion I would like to talk about is these are the doors. I already mentioned we have two doors. The front is the operator door. The operator door, and I show this here to you, at that point it turns off all the lights here again on the machine, so I cannot make any product. This one is basically there so that nobody can reach in there while the brew mechanism is running and might get hurt by that one there. The second one is locked here with an Allen. This is our service door. This is for the service technician so that he can work inside the unit and has more access to it. On the back of this touchscreen here, what you see here is our hotline sticker. So this hotline sticker here is where you have, if you want to place a service call on that unit, this is your telephone number, so you see this whenever you open the door. The next thing is I would like to talk about the PAC Draw. The PAC Draw is actually here, this little assembly. We have two different styles from this assembly out in the marketplace. This is a generation 2, the second one. You can have a flip tray here, you can adjust that flip tray. So this is mainly used if you're running single shots, espressos or something like this, which are going into a smaller cup. You put the cup on here, and at that point you don't have as much sputtering there, and you build a little bit nicer cream on the product. This PAC Draw, the generation 1, has basically a tray which is moving up and down. Slightly different design. This is the newer one which is currently out there. Comes with a new unit. This PAC Draw holds about 25 brewing cycles, and it is monitored. So at one point the machine will lock you out and will say, well, PAC bin is full, and then you cannot make any more drinks till you take the PAC Drawer out, empty the PAC Drawer, and put it back in. We monitor this emptying from the PAC Drawer by a time. So the PAC Drawer has to be out there for more than 5 seconds, and then the machine is internally resetting that, my PAC Drawer is now empty. And when you then put it back in there, at that point the machine starts again the counting from these packs to 25. If the PAC Drawer is inside here, we have a magnet here on the back of the PAC Drawer. That one is activating this reed switch here. So if the PAC Drawer is not in, again, all the products here are gray, and you cannot make anything out of that one. That leads me a little bit to the next one there. We have here on the back of the PAC Drawer a plate. This plate here is to keep the PAC Drawer in place. Because what might be happening if this plate is missing, the PAC Drawer is a little loose in the garage there inside, and then while the machine is making a drink, it might be moving. The magnet suddenly says, "Oh, I'm out," and it stops at that point the product. And it's not necessarily at that point that somebody stopped it. It was just because the PAC Drawer moved. With this, there's a rule of what I would encourage you to do is really, whenever you put a PAC Drawer back in, always put the PAC Drawer in empty. Because if you put this PAC Drawer in, and I'm not sure if you see this right at this point, the PAC Drawer is half full, the machine would think my PAC Drawer is empty, and you put it back in there, and suddenly you're piling the pucks up, and the pucks are basically overpiling the brewing chamber, and they might be hanging then in the brewing chamber, and then you're getting brew mechanism errors there. So whenever you put the PAC Drawer back in, please empty that one here. I have a trash can here. So this one is empty now. Now I can put it back in, and you see my machine again changed the coloring so that I can make no drinks with this. We talked a little bit about the PAC garage. That's where the PAC Drawer is actually in. Two things are very important here. The first one is on this side here, on the left-hand side, there's my main power switch. So if I want to turn off the machine to have the machine rebooted or something like this, that's basically where you turn off the equipment. When you turn off the equipment, you should always wait a couple of seconds, to really have it shut down before you turn it back on. On the right-hand side, you have a plate with the serial number. The serial number on a one-step machine always starts with a 1 SPR. So whenever you place a service call, take the PAC drawer out, give our customer service representatives, the agents there, gives them the serial number, and at that point it's very easy to identify the equipment. What we never want to do is really, we don't want to turn off the equipment at the end of the day. If you turn off at the end of the day the machine, you turn off all the heaters and the machine is cooling down. And then when you come back in the morning, the machine basically has to start heating from a very low temperature. With this cool down, heat up, cool down, heat up, cool down, heat up, you're putting a lot of stress on the equipment, on gaskets and on seals, and we are avoiding this in this way, that the machine actually falls asleep in a standby mode after 2 hours of inactivity. At that point the display will just go black, but you still hear at that point a fan running in the equipment, and that shows you that the machine is still alive. And at that point, when you come in the morning, you just touch your touchscreen, and then the machine is normally ready within a minute and a half or something like this, instead of 7 minutes when the machine would be fully cooled down. The next portion I would like to talk about is the drip tray. In the drip tray we have 2 different styles, and I have these 2 different styles here available outside from the unit. And the first generation is a drip tray which is kind of in an oval shape, while the second generation has that square shape there. Big difference really is, and you see that the oval one has a tubing attached to it, while the square one doesn't. So the difference here is this one, if an operator wants to take on the oval one the drip tray out and clean it, you have to disconnect underneath of the machine this tubing from the drain manifold. Very important at that point. If you put the drip tray back in, always remember to connect that tube again, otherwise you have leaks and a lot of water coming underneath from the equipment. On this one here with the square form, you just lift the drip tray and you can clean it and put it back in, and you don't have to worry about that tubing isn't getting connected there correctly. A couple of things around our drip tray there. The drip tray is not overly big, but it is big enough that when you run a cleaning cycle, it gets all the water out of it. If during a cleaning cycle this drip tray overfills, that is normally an indication that something got into the drain, and that at that point basically is responsible for the overflow from the drip tray. So you normally, if you have a person around who's handy a little bit, try to investigate what might have been in there. And a lot of times what we see is that when customers take the PAC drawer out and the PAC drawer was overfilled because it came in wasn't empty before, all the coffee ground is falling here into the garage. And then people just wipe that coffee ground out of the garage, and it falls right into our drip tray, and that clogs at that point the drip tray. We also sometimes see that this drip tray is used because the machine is perhaps standing somewhere in a kitchen area or something like this, that people dump other stuff there inside. This is really just a drip tray for the espresso machine, so please keep that there in mind to keep in focus on that one. Let's talk about what is a one-step machine and what is our milk system doing. So in general, we have 2 different milk systems available. We have a milk system generation 1 and we have a milk system generation 2. Is it very easy for you to identify which kind of milk system you have? Yes and no. Is it important for you? No, it's not important. But I would like to point out what the difference is. As an operator, you can see the difference in the two dispense milk frothers. So this one here is our milk frother from a milk generation 1, while this is our frother in generation 2. This one is a clear one. You can also have that in a white one there, so that's really not a big of a difference. But when you take them apart, is the generation 2 has kind of a laminator inside, while the generation 1 only has a small square there inside. So that's really the only indication for what kind of milk system do I have installed. And keep in mind that this frother here always has to be cleaned separately from time to time, so that we don't have any milk built up there. This upgrade from a generation 1 to a generation 2 is not possible. So whenever the machine was a generation 1, it always stays a generation 1. The machine can basically handle 2 different kinds of milks. They can handle in 1 gallon or in 2 gallons. They are basically going here in our fridge, which comes with the unit. The tube for the milk 2 is a little bit longer because it goes in the back. It goes behind this milk here. The machine cannot handle non-dairy products. So this is really just designed to make sure that you have a dairy there in it. So we cannot do any kind of almond milk, soy milk, or something like this with this equipment. At that point, you get fluctuation errors just because of the thickness and the content from these non-dairy products. On this machine here, what you see is you have these small little strainers here at the inlet from that milk box, which is in the fridge. This is an indication for that you're operating on a generation 2 milk system. There's no need to ever go back on a milk system 1 to reinstall them there, but a generation 2 needs them. And the purpose from these strainers is really to capture whatever debris, crystals might be coming through the milk pickup tubes, that they don't clog any small little orifices in the milk system. When a technician is installing these units, we are calibrating the milk temperature on this unit. And we always calibrate the milk temperature somewhere around 160 degrees, plus and minus 2 degrees. We don't want to get it too hot because of 2 reasons. The first reason is the hotter the milk is getting, the less taste you have from the milk, the sweetness is missing. It's suddenly becoming just a very hot, flat product. And the second one is we don't want to cross and get close to 170 degrees, because the closer you're getting there, you might be damaging and overheating the milk system because the milk is falling apart and is clogging the milk system. So that's what is our target temperature there, and it's calibrated from the technician doing the installation, as well as it's checked during a preventive maintenance visit. The machine requires with this a daily cleaning, just because we have the dairy there inside. So you have to clean this machine once a day. Whenever we are doing more than 100 drinks per day, we always recommend to do a secondary cleaning behind that, because unlikely like perhaps a grill or something like this, where you can manually put some force on it to remove whatever buildup is in the system, here we solely rely on our cleaning chemicals to clean the machine correctly there. We will talk and cover the whole cleaning in a different session as well. So that's just a heads up there. The machine monitors if you are running out of milk. We have here in our milk box, we have optical sensors there inside, which are basically looking if you have milk in the tube, yes or no. And whenever you run out of milk, the machine will at that point stop the product. If you have, for example, here manual buttons, after you primed then the machine again with new milk, you can finish your product manually there, but the machine is at least finishing always the espresso portion from it, so that you can really just add additional remaining milk or missing milk into the cup. The machine rinses automatically every 5 minutes after a product was done. It gives you here a heads up on the screen and says, please wait, rinse. You still have always down here a cancel or stop button, so you can cancel that at any time. The reason why we do that is we just don't want to have that any milk which is sitting in the lines is getting, in room temperatures there. We are just flushing the lines there. When we talk about that one, again, we will have a separate session around the cleaning. We always want to make sure that we are using the correct cleaning supplies for these units because every manufacturer has basically his own cleaning sequence, and the cleaning solution matches that sequence to ensure that the equipment is getting clean. Let's talk a little bit about the fridge. The fridge, I mentioned that one earlier, is running on its own power supply. The fridge can be either sitting next to the unit, or you can put it underneath in the equipment in a cabinet or something like this. Whenever you put it into a cabinet, please remember there's a compressor inside and it needs air ventilation. So if you put that fridge just down in a closed cabinet and the heat from that compressor cannot go anywhere, suddenly your fridge will no longer be cooling. This fridge as well is not a fridge to cool milk down. It is just a fridge to keep the milk at its temperature. So if you put your milk in, and perhaps you say you put milk in which is at 42 degrees or something like this, it would take a very long time to get it down perhaps into the 36 degree area. If you put milk in at 36 degrees, it stays at 36. That's how they are coming in calibrated. There's always on the back of the fridge is an adjustment knob where you can basically make it a little bit colder or warmer. But every fridge is, before it's leaving our facility here, it's bench tested and is set correctly there. What we see a little bit on these fridges is that these fridges are basically building up ice inside. If they build up ice inside, they build up ice on basically on the top portion from the fridge on the left and on the right hand side. And if that ice is building up and is surrounding that milk box here inside, you might be seeing that your box, the interior there, is starting to freeze. So whenever you see, and you see that basically whenever you open and you put milk in or take milk out, or you run a cleaning cycle, if you see ice in that fridge, take the opportunity overnight to just unplug the fridge, put a towel there inside, and then keep the door open, and the ice will melt away and protects the equipment there. And so please keep an eye on that one there, because a milk pump stalled error normally is driven by that you have ice around that milk box there, and then the pump doesn't turn anymore. We have here a seal in this door. So whenever you open here the fridge and you take milk in, out for cleaning, refilling, whatever you want to do there, is please keep in mind that whatever you spill here, clean it up immediately. This seal cannot be replaced on its own. It is part of the complete front door, so you want to keep a little bit eye on that one, that you don't damage it and you have to get a new door in it. When you manage these tubes here, make sure that these tubes are not kinked inside the fridge. If they're kinked inside the fridge, the machine tries to draw milk through them, but because of the kink, you get nothing through it, and then you're constantly getting an error message that you're out of milk, you have to reprime and things like that. So keep an eye on that one. Next portion I would like to talk about is basically our screen. The screen is always built in this way that you can put in 9 different individual products. These individual products you have there, they are coming out of a library. You can take a product out of the library, but you cannot make a product called perhaps Guido's Cafe. That's not possible, so you have to live with the library there. The machine has the possibility to do basically 3 different drink sizes here. You can do these drink sizes with 2 different milks, or you can do these drink sizes either hot or cold. So that's kind of your selection, what you have there. If you want to make a regular drink, you have to make sure that your right bar is selected, and that's our default. So if you want to make a decaf product, you suddenly press your left product there, and at that point the machine would be switching over to draw the beans out of the decaf grinder there. What you saw here also earlier, again, I always talk about that, if products are graying out, they are not available. I switched here over to the secondary milk. You see immediately all the milk-based products are disappearing, and they're disappearing because I didn't prime a second milk, because I didn't put one in there. We have down here, we call it a status bar. This status bar normally says ready to brew. If it shows you something different there, it's either an alert or something else. And here it says that you have the check milk 2 as empty. That's because we didn't prime it. But you also see a blinking question mark here. This blinking question mark is always for you the possibility to say, something is wrong. What is wrong? Oh yeah, my milk is wrong. I'm missing my second milk. And then the machine guides you there how to basically prime the milk correctly and what to look for. So that's coming behind that question mark there as a support document. And we have it for multiple different error messages. Whenever you see it, use it. It's very helpful there. We have one button here, which is kind of like a pump. It looks like a syrup pump, and that's exactly what it is for. When you make a drink out of that product, your recipe is set. And if you then suddenly add perhaps on a 12-ounce product, on your small product, vanilla syrup or caramel syrup or whatever you would like to do that one, you might be adding up to an ounce of liquid into the cup. And with this, you are avoiding that you are overfilling basically the cup, because you're adding some additional product to it. So that's behind this screen here. We have a couple of more things behind that screen. We have a care and cleaning. The care and cleaning basically is the screen where you go to start a cleaning cycle. The cleaning cycle takes around 13 minutes and 45 seconds-ish. You have probably 5 minutes interaction with the unit, while the remaining 8 minutes the machine is just doing its rinsing. So that gives you an idea around that one there. You can manually start a coffee rinse or a milk rinse here on that unit, as well that you can basically do your milk priming from the care and cleaning side. Whenever the machine has an error message, this error message would be displayed in this white box there. It would be present for you on the main screen then, and that gives you an idea when you place a service call. Please tell the agent there, whatever the machine is telling you there for an error code. You see after a while the machine jumps back into its normal operating screen. That's also what we want. And the last thing on this screen I would like to point out is you see basically here part numbers for the correct cleaning supplies. So whenever you start a cleaning cycle, you are reminded here, if you run out of cleaning supplies and you place an order, you immediately have the correct part number handy, so that there's basically limited room for mistake to get the wrong cleaning supplies from us. You have a cancel button here, and this cancel button basically brings you always back to your main screen. That is everything what I would like to cover here a little bit around this unit. I have one last point. The last point is basically a little bit water filtration. Every machine, I mentioned that earlier, comes with a Mavea filter, which is specifically designed for scale in the water, especially here on the steam boiler, because we are boiling our water past 212 degrees. That water filter has a life. This life is based on the local water hardness. So if you are living perhaps in Arizona or somewhere in Michigan on a well or something like this, where you have a very high water hardness, you might have to change that water filter more frequently than perhaps here in Springfield, where we have a very decent water with a very low carbonate hardness inside. That calibration about that carbonate hardness and how long the filter can last is done on the filter head from that water filter, and the technician is basically adjusting this one there during the installation, as well as doing a reactive service call or a PM. And during a PM, once a year, we are changing this filter as part of the PM. If you are living in an area where you have a lot of scale, the change from a water filter is normally, or the expense to do that is normally by far less if you have reactive service calls which are scale related. So we would like you to look at that water filter there very closely. So this was one of the very first one-step introductions. The next ones will be around calibration. We will have one coming around the cleaning. We will have one around the programming. Look forward to that one, and I look forward to see you in one of these classes. And then I would open this round now for questions and answers. And yeah, thanks for this one here. Have a good one. So I hope the last 35-ish minutes had been a very helpful, spiel about the equipment here and what the unit can do and how you manage it correctly. Are there any specific questions you might have on the unit I can answer right at this point? So I'm open for this one right at this point here. As there's nothing coming in, I would like to say thank you for the time. The next one is coming up next Friday, same space, same time. So I'm looking forward to see you there. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.